It was on a rain-drenched Monday morning that Ezen first saw the girl. She stood by the black wrought-iron gate, barefoot, drenched to her skin, and shivering as though her soul were caught between this world and the next. Ezen had just returned from her early morning prayers at the local Anglican cathedral. Her Bible clutched to her chest. She paused when she saw the figure standing like a statue outside the compound. The girl couldn't have been more than 16, with hair matted against her small oval face, eyes too big for someone her age, eyes that looked like they had seen too much. Ezen lived alone in her late parents' house in Succa, a quiet estate tucked away from the heart of the bustling town. Her only sister, Adora, had died in a car accident 10 years ago when they were both teenagers, an event that shattered their family and left Ezen drowning in silence and solitude. But this girl, there was something familiar about her. "Hello." Ezen called gently, unlocking the gate. The girl flinched at the sound and took a small step back. "It's okay," Ezen added, her voice warmer. "Coming before you catch your death." The girl looked up slowly, her lips parted slightly as if trying to speak, but no words came. She walked into the compound with hesitant, almost ghost-like steps. Ezen wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and led her into the house. Inside, the girl sat at the edge of the couch, her soaked dress dripping onto the tile floor. Her eyes never once wandered around the room. They remained fixed on Ezen, studying her as if she knew her, as if she had always known her. "What's your name?" Ezen asked, handing her a warm towel. There was a long pause before the girl answered. "Ada." Ezen's hands froze midair. "What did you say?" The girl lowered her gaze. "I said, Adiz." The name struck like a blow. It wasn't exactly her sister's name, but it was close. Too close. "Where are your parents?" Ezen asked, forcing her voice to steady. "I don't remember." "Where do you live?" The girl shook her head. "Nowhere. I've been moving around for a while, sleeping outside churches, under bridges." "And how did you find my house?" "I didn't. My feet brought me here." A shiver went down Ezen's spine. Something about this girl felt wrong, or right. It was hard to tell. There was an air around her, something ancient and weightless, like she wasn't fully part of this world. Over the next few days, Ezen tried to get more out of the girl, but Adiz spoke little. She cleaned the house without being asked, moved around the home like she had lived there before, and often sat in the backyard, staring at the mango tree where Ezen and her sister had once played as children. One night, Ezen woke to whispers. She stepped out of her room and followed the sound to the sitting room. There, in the pale moonlight streaming through the windows, Adiz stood in front of faded family portrait. She was whispering to it, whispering to Adaora's image. "What are you doing?" Ezen asked, her voice shaking. Adiz turned slowly. Her eyes were different, darker, older. "I'm just remembering." Ezen's breath caught. That was the exact phrase her sister used to say whenever she sat by their father's grave. "I'm just remembering." The next morning, Ezen searched through old family albums and photo boxes, trying to find a logical explanation. She found an old locket that had once belonged to Adora and held it out to Adiz. "You've seen this before?" Adiz didn't hesitate. She opened the locket, smiled faintly, and said, "Daddy gave this to me the day before the accident." Ezen felt the world shift beneath her. "How do you know that?" Adiz looked up. "I never left you, Ezen. You just forgot how to see me." Ezen couldn't sleep. She sat in her bed, wide awake, heart pounding beneath her nightdress. The words, "You just forgot how to see me," echoed in her mind like a haunting lullaby. How could a stranger, a girl with no known origin, possibly know the exact words her late sister had spoken years ago? The locket, the memories, the name, the whispers at night. It didn't make sense, and yet it made too much sense. The next morning, Ezen tried to convince herself it was all a coincidence. Perhaps Adiz had overheard her speaking to someone about her sister. Perhaps she had read something. But deep within her, a quiet unease grew, a spiritual nudge she had ignored for too long. That afternoon, Ezen visited the town priest, Reverend Father Emmanuel, a man known not only for his spiritual wisdom, but for his sensitivity to the unseen. He had been there when Ador was buried, and had even comforted Ezen during her darkest grieving moments. She sat across from him in the old church office, her fingers tightly knotted together. "Father," she began, "I think my sister is back," in the form of a homeless girl. Father Emmanuel blinked, then leaned forward slowly. "Ezen, what do you mean?" "She appeared at my gate during the rain. No one knows where she came from. She has no past, no family. Her name is Adiz. She looks at me like she's known me forever. And she said things only Ador would know." He was silent for a long time. Then he said softly, "The dead do not return. But sometimes spirits do, especially when the living world has unresolved wounds. Do you think I'm being haunted?" "No, not haunted. Visited. But not every visitation is evil. Sometimes spirits return not to torment, but to heal or to be healed. I don't know what she wants from me." "Then ask her, but pray before you do." "And Ezen—" "Yes. If that girl is truly carrying your sister's essence, then your home is standing between two worlds. You must be spiritually alert." Back home, Ezen found Adiz in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared abono soup. The smell filled the house, and something about it tugged at Ezen's memory. It was Ada Ora's favorite soup. "Where did you learn to cook this?" Ezen asked, standing at the kitchen entrance. Adiz smiled without turning. "You taught me. Remember? You always forgot the salt." Ezen's blood ran cold. "I need to talk to you," she said firmly. Adiz turned and nodded. They sat together in the living room, the soup still simmering on the stove. "Who are you?" Ezen asked. "And don't say Adiz. I want the truth." There was a long pause. "I remember dying," the girl finally said. "I remember the car crashing, the pain, the darkness, and then silence." Ezen's lips parted, but no words came. "I was gone, Ezen. I went somewhere else, a place without time, without faces. But I never forgot you." Tears welled up in Ezen's eyes. "I don't know how or why, but when I returned, I wasn't in my old body. I woke up on the roadside, cold and alone, and I remembered one thing clearly, your face, your voice, your grief. But why now?" Ezen whispered. "Why after 10 years? Because the time is right. Because there is something you don't know. Something that was hidden from you. Something about the night I died." A loud crack split the silence. Both girls turned their heads. A long line had appeared on the wall above the family portrait. The plaster was split down the center, like a wound. And just beneath the crack, the photo of Adora, taken the day before she died, had tilted on its hook. Adiz stood up slowly. "The house remembers," she said. "It's time you did too." That night, Ezen dreamed of the accident again, but this time the dream was different. It was as if someone else had taken control of her memory. She saw the car. She saw Ador in the front seat. But then she saw something she had never seen before. A third figure in the back seat. A shadowed face. A pair of eyes watching from behind. She woke up screaming. The sun rose over Nsukka like a slow-burning fire, casting long shadows across the walls of Ezen's home. But inside the house, the chill of the night lingered like a spirit refusing to leave. Ezen sat on her bed, drenched in sweat. Her scream still echoed faintly in the room, swallowed only by the ticking of the old wooden clock that had belonged to their mother. Her heart thumped violently as she tried to make sense of the dream. A third person in the car. She had never recalled that before. Not during the funeral. Not in the therapy sessions. Not even during her sleepless nights of grief. Who was that shadowed face? Was it real? Or was her mind playing tricks on her? She rose from bed and walked barefoot to the photo shelf in the hallway, her eyes scanning the images of a time when her family had been whole. She paused at the photograph of her parents, then reached for the one taken 3 days before Adaora's death, the one where they stood together in matching Ankara gowns. Suddenly, something shifted behind her, a soft creak. She turned sharply and saw Dee standing at the end of the hallway, dressed in a long, faded nightgown. Her hair was slightly disheveled, her eyes darker than usual. "You screamed," Adee said quietly. "I had a dream about the accident, but this time, someone else was in the car." Adees nodded. "You're starting to remember." "Remember what?" "There's more to what happened that night, and it begins with that third person." Later that day, Ezen returned to the only person who might know more, Uncle Damien, her late mother's younger brother. He had been the one who helped pick up the pieces after the crash. He had identified the bodies, handled the burial. He lived alone now, in a modest bungalow near Nsukka's Edge, a man whose silence had always felt heavier than his words. Uncle Damien opened the door and stared at Ezen with a mixture of recognition and reluctance. "You shouldn't have come," he said, stepping aside anyway. "I need answers," Ezen said. "About Adora, about the night she died." He hesitated before sighing deeply and leading her to a wooden bench under the mango tree in the compound. "Why now?" he asked. "Why dig into wounds that barely healed?" "Because someone else was in that car," she said, "and I need to know who." Uncle Damien's shoulders tensed. Silence. Then, finally, he spoke. "There was a boy," he said. "His name was Chijioke. He was Adaora's classmate. They were close." "Close how?" "Too close. Your parents didn't approve. The night of the accident, your mother forbade her from seeing him. But Adora snuck out anyway. Chijioke was in the back seat. Why wasn't he mentioned in the reports?" "Because he didn't die." Ezen's breath caught. "He survived?" "Yes, but he vanished the night after the crash. Disappeared from the hospital. No one has seen him since. Some say he ran. Others believe he was taken." "Taken by who?" Uncle Damien leaned in, voice low. "Some say Adaora's spirit didn't rest that night. Some say he was cursed." Ezen felt her blood run cold. Back at home, Ezen told Adees everything. The girl listened silently, eyes clouded with thoughts beyond this world. "You said you remember dying," Ezen pressed. "Do you remember Chijioke?" Adees' expression darkened. "Yes," she said quietly. "He was the reason we crashed. He was shouting, accusing me." "Accusing?" "Us." The car swerved. Then everything went black. "What was he accusing you of?" Adees looked down at her hands, trembling. "Of betrayal. Of summoning something." Ezen's stomach tightened. "Summoning what?" Adees looked up, and her voice was hollow. "A spirit." That night, the strange occurrences in the house intensified. The radio turned on by itself, playing Adaora's favorite gospel song from when they were children. The clock in the hallway spun backward, and at exactly 2:17 a.m., the exact time of Adaora's death, the photograph on the wall shattered. Glass everywhere. Ezen woke up gasping for air. When she stumbled into the living room, She found Adee standing barefoot in the middle of the floor, her eyes glowing faintly with a silver shimmer, as if something ancient had awakened within her. "You must find Chidioke," she whispered, "before he finds you." Ezen hadn't left the house in days. She barely slept. When she did, her dreams were filled with shadows, faces melting into dark, whispers echoing through hollow rooms, and the chilling voice of her sister saying, "He's close. Too close." After the photo shattered at 2:17 a.m., something had shifted in the house. The atmosphere had become heavy. The air was thick with tension, as though the walls themselves were waiting, watching. Adee's had grown quieter. She moved around like a presence more than a person. Sometimes she would stare at the old rocking chair on the veranda, the one Adora used to sit on while braiding her hair. One morning, Ezen found a trail of white chalk symbols drawn along the hallway floor. There were strange spirals, eyes, hands, symbols she didn't recognize. She stormed into Adee's room. "Did you do this?" she asked, her voice sharp. Adee sat cross-legged on the floor, a candle flickering beside her. Her eyes lifted slowly. "You need protection." "Protection from what?" "From what's coming." Ezen returned to Father Emmanuel that same day, clutching a locket and a photo of Adora as if they were shields. "There's a name I need to find," she told him. "Chidioke. He was there the night my sister died." The priest frowned. "That name. I've heard it before. Years ago, a boy who disappeared after a crash. There were rumors." "What kind of rumors?" "That he was found weeks later at a shrine in Umuleki village, not in body, but in spirit." "What do you mean, spirit?" "They said his body vanished, but his soul was trapped. The villagers called it the boy who walked without breath. I didn't believe it then. I wasn't ready to." "I need to go there," Ezen said. The priest hesitated. "If you choose this path, you may uncover things better left buried." Ezen stood anyway. They should have stayed buried the night Adora died. The road to Umuleki was long, winding, and overgrown. The village lay at the edge of Enugu State, where stories of old gods and forgotten spirits still whispered through trees. As she arrived, Ezen met an elderly man named Dibia Mo, the village's last surviving spiritual seer. His skin was dark and wrinkled like folded bark. His eyes were milky, blind, yet they seemed to see straight through her. "I've been expecting you," he said before she spoke a word. "You know why I'm here?" she asked cautiously. "Yes. The spirit of your blood has returned." But she returned incomplete. Incomplete? She brought with her a wound, a tether, the boy, the one who cursed her. Ezen sat on the floor of the shrine, surrounded by broken calabashes and the smell of ancient incense. A single clay bowl sat before her, filled with water. "Look into the water," he said. She leaned over. At first, she saw nothing. Then ripples. Then faces. Chidioke, younger, afraid, his face contorted in rage. He was shouting at Adora, accusing her of bringing it into his life, of invoking a spirit she didn't understand. The car swerved. The impact. The blood. Then a figure in white hovering above them. Eyes but no face. Hands but no fingers. A presence. She called upon something, Muo whispered. Not out of malice, but desperation. Your sister wanted love. Control. Power. The spirit answered, but it demanded balance. A sacrifice? More than that, it demanded a soul. And it was cheated. Ezen's eyes widened. She didn't die by accident, did she? No, he said softly. The crash was the spirit's correction. But it failed. Her body died, but her soul stayed behind. Restless, it waited until it found its way back. Ezen's voice trembled. And Chidioke, Still trapped. Not dead. Not living. Somewhere between. He roams these woods now, appearing only to those he once loved. Or cursed. Can I find him? If you must, but beware. He remembers everything. And he believes your sister stole his life. That night, Ezen walked alone into the forest near the shrine, carrying only a torchlight and Adora's locket. The wind whispered. The trees bent. And then a rustle. She turned. A boy stood in the shadows, barefoot, dressed in a torn white shirt. His eyes glowed faintly in the dark. His skin was pale, almost translucent. "Chidioke," she whispered. The boy smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. "You shouldn't have come," he said. "You brought her back. And now you brought me." Ezen froze. The boy in the woods was no longer just a mystery. He was real, standing before her in the flesh, yet somehow not fully there. His feet didn't disturb the leaves on the forest floor. His breath didn't mist in the cold night air. "Chidioke," she whispered again, voice shaking. His face was gaunt, and his eyes glimmered with something between pain and fury. "She came back in your house," he said. "She walks again, and you welcomed her." "I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," he interrupted. "Everyone chose to forget, but I didn't." He took a slow step forward. "She made a promise to something she didn't understand. We both did, but I paid the price." Ezen's grip on the locket tightened. What was the promise? Chidioke laughed bitterly. Love. Power. Escape. That spirit promised her freedom from control, from her parents' rules, from everything. But spirits don't give, they trade. She was supposed to give it something in return. A soul. And she didn't? She tried, but it wasn't hers to give. So the spirit cursed us both. She died that night. I didn't. I was trapped, neither dead nor alive. He took another step closer. "I've watched you, Ezen, for years. I waited for her to return. I felt at the moment she entered your house again. But she's not dangerous. She's unfinished." "What does that mean?" Chidioke's eyes darkened. "It means the spirit is still waiting. Her return reopened the debt. One soul was promised. None was delivered. The balance is broken, and now someone must pay." Ezen staggered backward, heart pounding. "So what do I do?" "You have two choices," Chidioke said coldly. "Send her back, or take her place." Ezen returned home at dawn, shaken and pale. The front door was wide open, yet the air inside was unnaturally cold. She stepped inside and called out, "Hades?" Silence. She moved from room to room. No sign of her. Then, from the back veranda, she heard a soft humming. She stepped outside and saw Hades sitting at the edge of the compound, facing the rising sun. The same song Adora used to hum echoed from her lips. She turned when Ezen approached, her expression unreadable. "You saw him," she said softly. "Yes." Hades nodded slowly. "He blames me." Was he right? Ezen asked, "Did you make a pact with that spirit?" Hades was silent for a long time. Then, in a voice almost too quiet to hear, "I was 17. I was angry. I wanted control. Chidioke gave me a name, a spirit from an old ritual. We thought it was a game. But it wasn't. No. Listen, it gave me everything I wanted. Chidioke's loyalty, my parents' trust. But I didn't know it would ask for a life." Tears welled in her eyes. "I was going to offer myself. I thought dying in that crash would settle the debt. But it didn't, because my soul didn't leave. It clung to this world. And now the spirit wants payment." Hades looked up. "It's angry. It's close. That's why the house feels wrong." It wants closure. And if it doesn't get it soon, it will take what it wants from either of us. Ezen sat beside her, the early morning breeze brushing over their skin. I'm not losing you again, she whispered. We'll find a way. Adiz looked into her sister's eyes. There's only one way. That night, Ezen gathered everything the priest and the seer had given her. Holy water, a crucifix, a bowl of salt, and Adaora's locket. In the center of the compound, she drew a circle using the chalk symbols she'd seen before. Adiz stood in the middle of it. They waited. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the air shifted. The wind rose. The leaves turned inward. The lights inside the house flickered and died. And then it arrived. A towering presence of darkness took form just outside the circle. No visible body, no face, just shifting shadows and gleaming red eyes. Ezen stepped forward, heart pounding. You cannot have her, she said. This debt is broken. She died once. You got what you wanted. The spirit's voice rumbled like thunder. She was promised, but not delivered. Balance must be restored. Ezen reached into her pocket and pulled out the locket, holding it high. She returned not to cheat you, but to make peace. Take the pain, take the memory, but leave her soul. The spirit snarled, then offer another. Before Ezen could speak, Adiz stepped forward. No, she said, I offer myself again. But this time let be finished. She placed a locket into Ezen's hand, then turned to the spirit. I won't run anymore. The spirit roared, a deafening cry that shook the ground beneath them. Then, silence. A flash of blinding light burst within the circle, and Adiz collapsed. When Ezen opened her eyes, she was alone in the compound. The chalk circle had vanished. The locket lay in her palm, warm, glowing faintly. She looked around. No Adiz, no shadows, just silence. She fell to her knees and wept. The morning after the ritual, the world felt unfamiliar. Still, silent. The birds did not sing. The trees barely swayed. Even the usual sounds of the neighborhood, the early morning water vendors, the distant laughter of children, were absent, as though the entire world held its breath. Ezen sat in the middle of her compound, her eyes fixed on the locket, still resting in her palm. It no longer glowed. It was just metal now. Cold, ordinary. But she wasn't the same. She was hollow inside. Adiz, Adora, was gone. Again. No footprints. No goodbye. No trace. As if she had never been here. Except Ezen remembered everything. The sound of her voice. The way she hummed Adaora's favorite song. The soft touch of her hand. The warmth of her laughter that briefly filled the house like sunlight on dry cloth. And then the last moment, the blinding light, the spirit's rage, and her sister's final, sacrificial step forward. 3 days passed. Ezen didn't speak to anyone, not even Father Emmanuel, who had come by twice and left quietly each time. She walked around the house like a widow in a dream, watering plants that no longer bloomed, dusting frames of pictures that now felt haunted. But then, on the third night, she heard it. A gentle knock at the front gate. Just once. She froze. Another knock. Cautiously, she stepped outside, torchlight in hand. As she approached the gate, her heart pounded. She reached out, unlatched the lock, and slowly opened it. No one was there, just a cool evening breeze. But on the ground, right in front of the gate, lay something. A single white rose, and beside it, a folded piece of paper. She picked it up with trembling hands and opened it. The writing was familiar, neat, curved, elegant. Thank you for remembering me. I am free now, and so are you. Hey, Ezen pressed the letter to her chest and fell to her knees. This time, her tears weren't of sorrow. They were of release, of peace, of closure. Weeks passed, and with time, life slowly returned to the house. The shadows faded. The mirrors no longer flickered. The rooms felt warmer. Ezen donated most of Adaora's old clothes and books to a local girls' orphanage. She also started volunteering at the parish, helping homeless girls find shelter and support. One evening, while walking home from the church, she passed by a little girl on the roadside. She looked lost, no shoes, wearing an oversized dress. Ezen hesitated, then knelt beside her. "Are you alone?" she asked softly. The girl nodded. Ezen smiled gently. "Come, let me take you home."